Good evening. Thank you all for coming out this evening. I am Jessica Hunter, the office manager at the Green River Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your host for this evening. Tonight's community forum will be broadcasted live on Sweetwater County School District Number 2 YouTube channel. For those of us joining us online, welcome to tonight's forum. Tonight's community forum will be the first of 3 forums being held. Each night there will be a different candidate. These forums are a platform in which is intended to allow the opportunity for district patrons, staff, and community members to hear comments from the candidates that have been selected for Sweetwater County School District Number 2 superintendent position. This is not an attempt to embarrass or badger the candidate, rather an opportunity to educate the community. The agenda for the first portion of this evening will run as follows. The candidate will be given exactly 5 minutes to tell the community who they are and why they are interested in this position. When the candidate has given their opening statement, we will begin the second portion of the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidate for this evening. For this evening's forum, Jason Foose. You will have 5 minutes for your introduction, and I will be keeping track of your time. When I raise the yellow card, that means you have 30 seconds to finish your introduction, and when I raise the red card, you need to be finished. Now I will turn the time over to the candidate for their introduction.
Okay, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here and I have tremendous gratitude. So thank you. A little bit about me. I moved to the community in the year 99 and 2000 school year. I was a teacher at Green River High and a coach. I coached multiple sports. After that time, I worked on my administrative degree and I knew that I wanted to have a career in administration. So after those years, Rock Springs School District 1 hired me to my first administrative position. During that time, I served as an associate principal, activities director, associate principal, discipline and attendance. Shortly after my time in Rock Springs, I knew that I wanted to try to get an opportunity to come back to Green River, and I interviewed to be the Monroe intermediate principal and was able to serve at Monroe for a few years. And then after that, interviewed and served at Green River High School. And following my time at Green River High School, I've spent the last 12 years serving here as the director of HR at Central Office. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Goshen County, Wyoming, on a farm. Things weren't always easy for me because they just weren't. It was a little bit under the 8 ball, and I had teachers that believed in me, and they really impacted my life, and that set me on the trajectory to have a career where I wanted to serve in education. And in that career, I have known all along that I want to help children. I love relationships, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I want to continue to do. The reason why I want to be the superintendency, I wanted to be the superintendent in the district. When the job opened, I thought to myself, sure, I would like to be the superintendent, but I had one question I needed to answer. That question is do I believe I can have added value to this district serving as the superintendent? And I believe so. It's a it's a thing for me where this is my home, and I want to continue to build relationships, and I want to continue to add bricks to the foundation of the already great legacy that this district has. 30 years of a great legacy. And I think that everybody knows that Green River has had a reputation around the state for years. People want to come here when we have openings. And I think that I can contribute to that. I think I can contribute to being proud that my career has been spent in education, a nonprofit. Our concern is children outcomes. It's not necessarily profit margins. I'm extremely proud to be an educator. And I think those are the traits that our legislators need to hear, our community needs to hear. This is where I want to be. I love education, and I want to be a steward for education. So I think I can have those added values. Through my long-standing relationships being in the community for as long as that I have, I think I can continue to build on the school community partnerships, meaning Let's share our resources. We share resources now for the swim lessons at the pool. We're looking at sharing resources for land for some of our career and tech ed things. I want to continue to share those relationships and share those resources. And I think that this is my home. I lived half of my life on a farm in Goshen County and the other half of my life here in Sweetwater County. And this being my home is very important to me. And serving in the profession of education is equally important. And I know that serving the community and having our school system be something that everybody can be proud of is vitally important. There's a lot of pride here.
Thank you, Jason. The second portion of this evening is dedicated to the questions from the panel. The candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question. After we are done with the question, the candidate will have 5 minutes for any closing remarks. We will now begin the questions. We would like to thank everyone who submitted questions online. Some of the questions could not be considered due to being geared towards only one candidate. Each panelist will ask a total of 2 questions. We will start with panelist number 1 and move down the line. Then we will circle back to panelist number 1 for them to start asking their second question. Once again, I will be keeping track of your time. When I raise the yellow card, that means you have 30 seconds to finish your answer to each question. And when I raise the red card, you need to be finished. Now I will turn the time over to panelist number 1.
Thank you. My name is Joe Olivas. I'm the Director of Business Development for Industrial Systems Consulting, a workforce staffing company, as well as the president of the Southwest Wyoming Manufacturing Partnership. Your first question today is, how do you envision the future of Wyoming's education system? What steps would you take to prepare our district for these changes?
Thank you, Joe. Wyoming education, in my opinion, is heading in this direction. I think years ago, we heard a focus and almost a theme where it's like, you need to prepare to go to college. And I think that's equally important. But where we are now is we also need to prepare for job entry. And we also need to broaden our educational experiences. The RIDE initiative and those things that the district is working on is where Wyoming education is headed. It's headed towards building students' capacity to innovate. It's headed towards building students' capacity to think on their own and go out and seek internships. In terms of education is changing, especially with our students who are getting ready to go to college, go into the workforce. We now have students with the opportunity to take college credits, and that is broader and more extensive than we've ever seen. We've had students with opportunities to take internships. So education is broadening and changing. There's a lot of phases and tracks now for students to get on what they are interested in. And we, as the system, we need to be ready to go and respond and do our best work with whatever path our children decide to take to prepare for whatever future they decide to take on. They are the lifeblood of our nation. They're the lifeblood of our state. And we need to give them every opportunity to think and to learn and to innovate, just like the RIDE initiative says on the profile of a graduate. Those things are critical. We need to be responsive as a district.
My name is John Freeman. I was in education for 43 years at K-12 and the community colleges. I also served in the legislature for 10 years, being on the education committee for all of that time. Jason, would you please describe your leadership style? And then how does your leadership style foster collaborations among staff, teachers, and administration? administrators.
Thanks, John. My leadership style is differentiated. It's not one set style. I think leadership styles need to change as the situation changes in key leadership. Here's what I mean. Autocratic leadership might be one point of decision making, maybe the superintendent only, with really no or little collaboration. Democratic leadership style you have the committees, you have a lot of input. And I think there's the opportunity to stay in that zone the majority of the time. There are a lot of other leadership styles that you can read about and study. One other that I'll mention, bureaucratic leadership style. Here's an example of bureaucratic leadership style. Here's the rules. So in HR, you may say, this is a labor law, it has to go here. That's bureaucratic. You're saying, here's the rules, here's the law. But my leadership style is able to go between the different leadership styles in any given situation. So earlier today, the staff asked me the same question, and I gave an example. Through our IBN process or negotiations, staff brought a concern forward. Hey, we want to take a look at our leave. And I think this plays right into valuing our employees and those things. But in taking in our leave, we put together a year-long committee. We got input. What are some leave items we need to look at? Maternity, paternity leave, maybe more personal leave for staff members that have been with us for 20 years. And I think that's a good example of democratic leadership. However, there are times where the board will expect and district leadership will expect where you are the superintendent. You need to make a decision and you need to own and shoulder this decision. I think in leadership, you need to be willing to do that. An example I may offer is, let's say the superintendent gets a call and maybe there's a report of a gun on campus, or maybe there's a report of something going on. And I think you go right into the directive leadership style, because time is of the essence and safety is of the essence. And you need to get right there and you need to make some decisions. You're calling the SROs, you're doing those things. You're making decisions in a streamlined way, although the majority of the decisions can be democratic and as a group. So that's my leadership style. I think you need to recognize what style is needed for any given situation, and you need to deploy that style as it arises.
Hello, I'm Crystal Reyes. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for Western Wyoming Community College. I also sit on the board for the Green River Chamber and the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership.
Nice to meet you, Crystal.
Jason, how would you balance transparency and confidentiality when making difficult decisions within the district?
I think a rule of thumb is this, and this is going to sound pretty bureaucratic, but it's the way it is. Personnel decisions need to be confidential because you need to honor the employee. You don't want to have liability on the district. The majority of other decisions, I'm not going to say all, transparency. Why are we identifying this area for a budget cut, or why are we making this move with personnel and a number of other things? I think in our business, public education, there is the ability for transparency and to at least agree to disagree. This is where we're coming from on our decisions. But the rule of thumb is personnel needs to be confidential. And you also need to know that sometimes you can't be in a mode of defensiveness with that confidentiality. You just can't. You need to evaluate, could we have handled that better? You bet. That's how you handle that piece. But you need to remember those two things every time as you go through this. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Jason. My name is Dan Stanton. I'm a small business owner. I sit on several different boards in the area. I also substitute teach for my wife sometimes during the district. So, Jason, how would you handle conflict resolution within the school district? And can you provide an example?
Conflict resolution is complex. And you can read about it and theorize about it and go to many workshops like I have. But you really, until you deal with an extensive amount of conflict resolution, you gain that experience and maybe you become 2% better or 0.5% better each time you do. But here's how you handle it. Here's how I handle it. Facts first. And in conflicts resolution, there's always emotion. So if you can gather the facts, I think that immediately reduces some emotion because it's undisputable. This happened, both sides agree on the conflict resolution. The next piece of the conflict resolution is identifying the impact, what needs to be solved, the impact of that. I think then after the impact, analyzing the context. Why are we in conflict? And the context is a big one. Sometimes conflict happens because there are personal things going on at stake. There's heartache, there's trauma, and that can cause conflict. And so when you understand the context, you can go on to the last piece that I use, and that's working on the appropriate action. We have district policy that deals with conflict resolution, and step one on conflict resolution is the lowest level possible. And if two people come to the highest level, their principal or their supervisor or even central office, they're looking for someone to solve that conflict by choosing a side. And that oftentimes is the most counterproductive thing you can do, is facilitating talk through this, finding the common ground, all of those things, and handling it at the lowest level possible. That's what policy says. That's what's researched. And that's how I think is the best way to handle it. When it rises to a principal or director level, or even a central office level, then following the facts, the impact, the context, why this is happening, and then going from the action there, I have found is the best methodology. But also knowing through conflict, someone sometimes doesn't get their way, and those things are hard.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Bonnie Tippy. I'm honored to be here tonight.
Hi, Bonnie.
I'm a small business owner. I have a Red White Buffalo downtown, which is a storefront for Wyoming artists. Jason, what strategies have you successfully implemented to improve students' outcomes? How would you adapt them in our district's unique needs?
Okay, thank you. Green River is my home. So I'm going to use this example. I want to go back to Green River High School, my time as the principal there, and research and putting in the intervention periods to help struggling learners. You hear a lot about it at the elementary schools. This child may be in need of reading support, or this child may be in need of math support. It changes. It's equally as difficult as it is at the elementary as at the high school, but it changes. And oftentimes at the high school, when students are failing a class or struggling, it may or may not be because of an academic deficiency. It may be other things at play. That child may have a job till 9 at night, or maybe they're out on their own. And so one innovative thing that and I have to give lots of credit to everybody who worked on it, Dennis Freeman, Darren Howard, Kathy Phillip, lots of people. But what we were able to do, and Green River High is moving towards that track again, is put in what we called at the time an options period. And that options period gave children with many opportunities. Maybe you are lagging in your skill set. Let's go remediate it. Or maybe you just need more time. Let's go remediate that. Or maybe you need a different kind of support, whether that's emotional, trauma support, counseling type support. But putting in that intervention period at Green River High, 2010, 11, 12, 13, and so on, that run there, is something that I am really proud of. And I think there are some outcomes, because when you track longitudinally the graduation rate at Green River High during those years, there's multiple variables that impacted that for the positive, but this is one that really did. And I think, we touched on 94, the exact year that I left. And before that, it was 93. I think there was a 90 in there, but 92. And I think those are exceptional, outstanding outcomes. One of the things that the option period did too as well, gave students a chance to recover credit, because sometimes things happen, car accident, life happens. I didn't obtain a credit I needed. That option period was just so broad to meet the needs and so many different needs of students. I'm proud of that work. And I'm proud of Green River High beginning that trajectory again.
Good evening. My
evening.
name's Inoa Ferrer. I am a local business owner, serve on the board of Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism as well. My question for you tonight, Jason, is Green River is a close-knit community. How would you ensure meaningful engagement with families who may not traditionally be involved in school decisions?
Thank you. In the era of technology and data, we, number one, can identify them. Number two, it takes effort, and it takes intentional effort to make those phone calls, to reach out, to specifically invite them to be on collaborative communities. It's an effort issue, and there's no reason to not know who they are in the era of information. Infinite Campus can track them down. Students can give the feedback where we know we haven't seen some parents and parent-teacher conferences and all of those things. And so reaching out, whether that is what their home living situation is, whether it's the parents, grandparents, or even someone else, someone who may be placed, I think you can intentionally reach out and offer them opportunities on committees, offer them an opportunity to just have a phone conversation on the phone and know who they are and take that added step to be there. I think you can also deploy instructors, you can deploy counselors, you can deploy principals, and you can come up with game plans to make sure that we are reaching out. And it's incredibly important too. Just sending an email or the notification we got from the snow day on Friday, I don't think that qualifies. I think it's genuine, reaching out, making that phone call, and seeing if you can get to them engage.
Hi, my name is Kelly Davis, and I'm the branch manager of Y High here in Green River, and I'm also on the chamber board. My question is, what role do you see for the school district in addressing workforce readiness and partnerships with local industries?
Okay. I think this is important. You need to know the community culture. We have a lot of industry. We have our community culture. We know that. But we need to better, as a district, understand our community assets and seek those out. And I think understanding community assets, understanding what the community needs is something then we can take back and look at our programming through our curriculum office resources and trying to plug in some programming that meets some of the needs of our community. Some work, and I believe I did some of it with you, John, is what we really enjoyed was entry-level jobs, not only at our mines, but at our oil and gas industry, working and communicating with some of those leaders. What do you need? Again, I'll say this buzzword, the profile of a graduate from someone who's not interested in college, but interested in entering right into job entry workforce. And how about OSHA 1? Something that I know our career and tech ed department is doing some that would be really nice to get more and more going, and being on time and really developing those soft skills. But I think responding to the culture of our community and what our community leaders, you folks on the panel, are telling us what our students need and developing it from there. But the RIDE initiative has brought some incredible things. The internships that we have going, Tacey Fox going up to Castle Rock, and I think some folks who maybe take their pets up there just think she's one of the regular nurses there, but she's just a student interning. And we had a young man go to the airport, and we've gone from a handful last year to now up in the 20s. And our community has shared with us, here's what we're looking for and here's what we can offer. But those relationships are key, aligning our goals, making students prepared to, hey, we see this with our workforce. Can you address that in your programming? Yeah, whatever it might be. Mutual benefits. I think there is a mutual benefit to these internships because some students may choose the job entry and resource sharing. I think all of those things we're doing some, but we can continue to develop more. And we can continue to go out and seek leaders and say, what do you have? How can we find students to match your needs and help our programming through curriculum to do that?
All right, Jason, how do you prioritize budget allocations to ensure maximum benefit for student learning and development?
Can I take till midnight? This one's tough and it's complex. And let's talk about SW2 specifically. We're dealing with the lowest student enrollment since the 90s here. And we've been in a state of attrition since basically the year of 2016. And I commented earlier today with our staff that one thing that I am concerned about is through attrition, we've kind of reached that point where if we have to worry about cutting further, programs and children are going to be impacted bigger than they have been. And here's what I mean. With downward enrollment, we may have 3 fifth grade teachers at a building. Each of those classes have 13, 13, 13. Okay, one teacher retires, we're not going to replace them. Maybe now you get the idea. But we're at that critical point now where further attrition is going to start to impact programs and we may lose things. And we dabbled in that a hair in 2016. That's when things get critical. So one of the number one things of budgeting and prioritizing is forecasting. You have to forecast and understand where you are. You have to know what the legislatures are doing with the external cost adjustments to the education funding model. You have to know what's going on with your student enrollment, which ours is downward trending. And when those two things intersect, you can take a look at, here's your operating budget, and we see a deficit or we see an opportunity to give staff members raises. The board of directors deserves a lot of credit for this the last 10 years, but so do the district leaders, that we haven't found ourselves in a position like we found in the 2000s where a superintendent came in and had to say 30 to 40 staff members are losing their positions. Forecasting is key. We've done a great job up until this point. You need to understand what the legislatures are doing. You need to understand what the funding model is doing. But we are at a critical point. And I hope our student enrollment starts to trend in the right direction. I know there's a finance lawsuit that had some positive outcomes, but probably going to be going on appeal to the Supreme Court of Wyoming. But the legislatures did give an ECA this year, and they held in the ECA from last year, the external cost adjustment, things that are really hurting us. I do believe the district is poised to sustain where we are. And we've heard a lot of talk about it with the development of the mines, the development of industry. We're hoping, right? We're all hoping. But we need to hang on, and we need to be smart, and we need to be wise and hope that we can kind of get where our students start to grow The legislators help us out with the ECAs, and we're going to be okay. Forecasting is key.
Having you talk about external cost of judgment gave me a legislative flashback. It wasn't fun. This goes on with what you did already is what innovative strategies have you used to secure additional fundings or grants for the school districts?
Well, innovative is a tricky word, and all of this is a team effort. I think we have a district grant writer who has really helped us tremendously. Again, relationships through Superintendent Behringer, Dr. Demaray. They're very connected in the state, and sometimes people make a phone call. We have some money here. You interested? You bet. Let's use it wisely. I don't know. You can use the word innovative, but we've used grant funds, the consolidated grant, we've used BOCES, and we've used those things to pay teacher salaries and to help us sustain, like I mentioned in the previous question. We have a lot of that going on, and it's really important that we sustain those things. The mill levy is, again, I'm not going to get into because it's not my role, whether I agree or disagree, but the property taxes could impact our mill levies and it could impact our BOCES, and we are funding positions through BOCES. And so we need to be well aware of that. The rec mill is funding the entire operations of the pool. And this is the community forum. How critical that the city can teach swimming lessons there. Love it. You know, we have the lifeguards, we share that, we have the open lap swims. Those things are really important, and we need to stay in tune because I think the district has been extremely innovative until this point. Our family counselors are paid for by the Connections Grant, and I could go on and on. The innovation really at this point in time is through the roof, and that's a team effort. And I'm not going to sit here and take credit for that because that's a multi-person team effort.
How would you support teachers and staff in implementing new teaching methods or technologies, particularly in a rural district?
JR, are you still here? I make that joke because JR is our tech director, but it's resource allocation, right? And our rules districts are very important to us. They're part of the identity of Green River. They're part of the great legacy here. Our Tolman Ranch right now does not have a student, but we still have it on the books. We have hopes. And our Granger school and our McKinnon school. But you have to let them know you're thinking about them, and you have to allocate resources to them. In terms of teaching strategies, if I want to use McKinnon as the example, those teachers need to be well versed in the standards and have teaching strategies that deals with maybe a kindergarten through a second grader, and then maybe a third grader, through a sixth grader, all in the same classroom. So what are the grouping strategies, strategic groupings and things that they need to use? It's not what you would typically see in town. It has to be creative, and they have to know those things. So I think resource allocation and being able to give them the support and the professional development that looks a little different to deal with, here's a sixth grader in the same classroom as a third grader. How do those things work and how do they interact? But I will say, again, they just need thought, and that thought needs to be always a little bit different. When you talk about safety, we talk about our SROs. We talk about our police department would respond in Green River High School in 2 minutes. Let's say we did have an incident out of McKinnon. Our sheriffs need to be ready to respond out there, but we need to be ready to train those folks to deal with that and know that help may be a bit longer. Those are important things. And so you need to be thoughtful. It needs to be different. One size doesn't fit all. One size doesn't fit all. I'll elaborate just a hair more on 10 as I read it. I think, again, utilizing technology. It was asked to me today by one of the students. I really appreciate it. Mr. Foos, is tech too much or not? And I'm like, here's the answer. Tech, we've seen technology kind of doing this, improving, but with AI coming on and things coming on, it's gone exponential, right? Tech is now changing faster, and that's what the experts are telling the federal government, faster than we can kind of keep up and comprehend. But I think at the rural schools, we certainly can remote people in, right? And we can remote other classes in. We can take part in that virtual learning and put folks on the TV and utilize that technology in that way. And why wouldn't we? We're capable of doing it. JR does a phenomenal job, and we're already in a way doing it.
Jason, question 11 here is, what steps would you take to promote the mental health and well-being of students and staff?
Again, I want to be careful and not take credit where credit is due. But Katie Harder, the new business manager, we worked together and we got some employee things going on our insurance where now our employees can go get a certain amount of free mental health support from practitioners that they choose to do so. That's new the last couple of years. We're really proud of that. We've put that out in the newsletters. We've utilized that. We've done those things. But even now, adding to the employee programs as they can seek out through our insurance for legal counsel. It can be legal counsel on any issue and get some of them consults. And so I think we need to work in that direction, but we need to also, and I don't want to get too far off the topic, but we need to also understand the pressures that our staff is under, and in particular our teachers, because the Secret Service conducted a study. In fact, they've conducted a couple studies, and those studies have yielded when children are in crisis, suicide ideation, thinking about doing harm, some of those things, more often than not, they're going to their teachers. And we need to support our teachers and give them the avenues to help deal with those things as they come to them, because students know their teachers best. And when they go there with an issue, a teacher needs to know, I go here. I called student services office, Dr. Demaray, I go here. But we need to have that professional development and some of those things in place to help them along. But another thing with teachers is the study that I referenced for leave. We've increased our leave for maternity and paternity leave. If you've been in the system for a certain amount of years, you got more personal time. Again, taking care of folks that have dedicated their careers to this community. All those things combined help with their mental health and help them be better, but also not overloading them with initiatives and making them feel overwhelmed. There's going to be some tough stuff coming up in the near future, and that's learning a new curriculum. That in itself can be overwhelming to our teachers, and to add more things on their plate could be really counterproductive with who they are. In terms of our students, we need to make sure that we are ready to respond and be proactive. We need to identify behaviors that require support, and we need to provide those supports. One thing that our district is dedicated long before I have been here and things is the elementary counselors. Okay, so our elementary counselors are there to support our little children. We have counseling staff at Lincoln Middle School, and we also have counseling staff at Green River High School and EA. In the last 5 years, and I'm not going to take the credit for it, but I think the district has supported it, is some of the directions that the special services department has taken with adding staff to those areas. So we've not only in the last 5 years added that staff, but we've also brought in, again, relationships and communication, knowing what's going on. We've brought in the trauma informed grant, and that's also given us added support. We need to be ready to figure out how to sustain and how to continue building on those good programs, because when a grant goes away, what do? And with the downward trend in student enrollment, we have to prioritize. So again, a lot of good things going on. We need to be ready to sustain and work at and prioritize. But again, children They're in front of their teachers. They're in front of the support staff, the nutrition services, everybody, all of us, A to Z. And we need to be showing them grace, love, compassion, no matter what, even when they're hard to love. And I feel strongly about that. And I feel like that's who I am in my heart.
Small districts often struggle with attracting and retaining high-quality educators. What strategies would you implement to support, develop, and train teachers and staff within the district?
Thank you. Well, I'll say this first. Proud of our track record. Now, we've gotten creative and we've filled positions, but I'm proud of this district's track record. And compared to other districts, you look at we just posted jobs today, so it looks like there's a lot, but we fill the majority of our jobs yearly. And that's a testament to our board. That's a testament to our principals. It's a testament to this whole district that people are still interested in come here, and we have filled jobs. But the facts are it's getting hard. It's getting really hard. And we need to make sure that we train our folks and we give them opportunities for advancement. That's a big one to retaining teachers. It gives me, and I mentioned it earlier today, it gives me a warm heart when someone may have started in the custodial maintenance ranks, moved up to a para in front of children, and then they're like, really like children, really like this. Then they get on and get their teaching degree and work their way up. We need to foster those things. We also need to work with our administrators and give them key targeted professional development. And here's what I mean: professional development on crucial conversations and the way that they are handling and supervising staff members, our directors and principals. That's a big key too. We need to have the growth mindset, especially in our current environment. And the way that we handle formative conversations, and when I say formative, supervisory, those things are really key and helping folks grow. And so targeted PD for our administrators, directors, strategies would be create opportunities for growth within, and then we need recognition programs. We need to tell folks how much we appreciate them. And I'm not talking about a pizza party. I'm talking about maximizing resources like we did last year, where we gave people more appropriate leave. Like we did the year before, we tried to make right for some salary freezes on the salary schedule. And there are things you can do that really show meaningful appreciation through employee recognition and those things. So support, develop, and train teachers and staff within the district. It needs to be targeted and it needs to be based on what their needs are. And those do change.
I already forgot what question I'm supposed to ask. I should have brought my paper with me. How do you plan to support extracurricular programs, including athletics, arts, and clubs, while maintaining a strong academic focus?
Well, I think that's part of the legacy to Green River, Wyoming is the opportunities that children have. It is, and it's wonderful and it's celebrated because not only do our students perform well academically, they have a high participation rate in speech and debate, theater, all the sports programs. And so with that high participation rate, you need to make sure, and again, transparency piece, we get X amount for our activities in athletics, but we through a subsidy give more to bring us where we are. And I think that needs to be a commitment, because let's face it, our children in speech and debate and all of those things, they're performing better academically. And that's the whole child. And the life lessons learned in these activities, they are so invaluable. How to deal with adversity, how to deal with heartbreak, and those things. And so a willingness to continue to allocate resources to those activities would be one of the number one things. I believe another thing would be, again, this notion, I talked about the administrators a little bit about the crucial conversations and those things, the targeted professional development of those folks in front of those children in those settings, the basketball coaches, and those things, trying to give them targeted professional development to help them improve their craft. And so when a sponsor comes forward and says, we have this training somewhere, it may cost the district a few thousand to get there, we need to really try to honor that and allocate that resource for them to do that. When the football coach says, I need to go here to develop our X's and O's expertise and my leadership and all of those things, we need to allocate those resources and get them there. And that would be my intent, how to support that, because academics, they are the number one, they're the priority. But these activities that I'm talking about, the band, the choir, those things, they're so important too. And that's the product that we need to have an emphasis on and do our very best. And I think another thing to supporting, and it's easy for me because I love it. I like going to the activities. That's supporting. They like to see us there, supporting them and knowing that they're important. Not just the basketball games, but also being a volunteer to be a judge at the speech tournament, and realizing that you're not all that articulate at all when you hear some of those students do their thing. It's impressive.
Can you provide an example of how you have successfully partnered with local businesses or organizations to benefit the school district?
Yeah, I can. And I have to apologize for going back in time. But as I mentioned, I served some time as the Rock Springs Activities Director. And at that time, not just the Green River School District, but the Rock Springs School District was dealing with some really tight budgets. John remembers. And in those tight budgets, Rock Springs found themselves in, we need some new uniforms and we need some new pits for the track team and all of those things. And so what we did is developed a group of folks, head coaches and sponsors, and we went and approached some businesses, and what we wanted to try to sell was the mutual benefit. And when you approach businesses and things, it's the advertising, but it's also the commitment to try to send stakeholders and patrons to the business. That's so important. But with those commitments and those informal agreements, we were able to ask for some money, and we did make some informal agreements for advertising to begin a uniform rotation, and we were able to do that. And really, it was really rewarding. And it was really rewarding to meet folks and go out and do those things. And it was really rewarding to say, yep, we're going to step up to the plate and donate some money. And boy, haven't businesses in the community done that? They really have. And that's an example that I would give. I didn't see any yellow cards.
Oh, you did good. So we will now close out this evening with closing remarks from the candidate. Jason, you have 5 minutes for any closing remarks you'd like to make.
What's that? Am I? Green River is my home. And how do you treat your home? You take a little added care. And I think that little added care is something that I would bring to the table, dealing with both internal and external staff members, stakeholders, and dealing with our children. And my children went to this school district, and probably a lot of yours and the majority of yours. And the experiences, what a blessing. And I want to add to that. I want to add value. I want to expand the new innovative ways that teaching is starting to happen and the innovative pathways we're creating for students. And I want students and parents to feel like I feel when what a blessing my children have their freshman year complete headed to UW, because $22,000 is a lot of money. And the fast food people say that, I'm able to contribute 40. I'm like, really, where? But, this is my home. I want to be here. I want to serve. I'm in the capacity of serving and trying to add value and to build on the already established legacy. When I reach my time 4 to 6 years from now, then I want to be in the mode of giving back, however that looks. But right now I'm in the mode of serving and trying to do the best that I can for this school district and this community, and representing both in a way that makes everybody proud. Maybe down at the legislatures next year, I don't know.
Well, on behalf of the Green River Chamber, we would like to say thank you to everyone this evening, the candidate, the panelists, and everyone else here. We really appreciate